Brunch with Bari. Today, I'm fortunate enough to be sitting with Stuart Meltzer, Artistic Director of Zoetic Stage, and Elena María García, actress extraordinaire, who is starring in the third production of Fuácata.
Yes!
And Latina's Guide to
Surviving the Universe.
To surviving the universe. And we are here at the extraordinary Actors Playhouse, where rehearsal is in progress.
Yes.
I know that this is the third production of this show that you co-wrote. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we co-wrote this play about 5 years ago. It premiered at Zoetic Stage at the Adrienne Arsh Center at our season. And then the Adrienne Arsh Center the summer after went ahead and produced it again. So it's seen a lot of Miami, not all of Miami, but all of Miami needs to come back and see it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved what you were saying about what inspired you to start writing to begin with. But before we get there, how did the two of you meet? I know Actors Playhouse plays a role.
Yes, but it is a really funny story. So, Actors Playhouse used to be in another building in an old movie house in Kendall. So on the other side of Miami. And I grew up in that neighborhood. And I think I had just gotten back from living in Israel for a year. And I somehow was like 19 and I was gonna go ahead and someone shoved me into getting a job at Actors Playhouse as a spotlight op. And she was already, just barely. she was already a professional actress. And they were doing Grease.
Yeah, I got cast, but I was in Grease.
How fun!
Yeah, so she was doing Grease.
Yes.
I was a spotlight op. Dave Arisco was my first theater dad, if you will, Uncle Dave. And we met and actually started a friendship during that time. I was so impressionable. You know, anybody was like, oh my gosh. And you were so funny, and your wig was so funny.
It didn't fit, but that's okay.
It's okay.
It was Grease.
yeah.
The bigger the better, right?
Yeah,
But
but
they kept asking who was the guy playing Frenchie.
I was like, no. Oh, but you were
It's
great,
me.
Frenchie. Oh, I love it already.
Yeah, and then the hurricane hit.
And then the hit. But you know, I think throughout that time, you know, I went away to undergrad and graduate school, and you started a family and became really immersed in the theater community here. And it wasn't until years later when I was working at another theater company, and we worked together doing summer shorts. And so we started a relationship that was about 13, 14 years ago that sort of, you know, we got each other's sense of humor. We made each other laugh, you know, and understanding the sensibility and the characters. And so from the time that we worked at City Theater, she came in and you worked with us during several shows over at Zoetic Stage.
And the first show at Zoetic Stage.
Our very first production, which was a Michael McKeever play of South Beach, Babylon.
Yes.
And so what inspired you to put this project together?
Well, you know, I approached Elena because I think during the time I was looking for material that reflected something of Miami, something that was the heartbeat, the sinew of Miami. And there aren't a lot of, and more specifically from a female playwright. And there weren't a lot of plays that were like that had been written already. And Elena had done previously a one-woman show called Do You Speak Mexican? That she wrote, that put together, that was incredibly funny. We had the relationship already, and I said, and we're sitting there having smoked salmon and bagels in my neighborhood. Hey, let's write a play. You know, what can we do? Let's. And she had this idea for the word Fuácata.
Fuácata.
And what does Fuácata mean?
It just means a backhanded slap that literally will unhinge your jaw. Like, wake up! It's that kind of a feel.
So she had this idea for Fuácata, and I said, well, what does that mean, waking up? So let's sort of figure out how we could utilize this, a Latina's guide to surviving the universe, by waking up from different sectors of maybe obstacles or tribulations, you know, and we did.
Yes, and our audience is very vocal too.
How exciting.
They, yeah.
I love that.
They'll be wearing masks, but they're Cuban, and we'll be able to hear them still.
You'll be able to be heard.
So-
Yes, you'll be able to be heard. Wow.
I love my people.
Yes.
But I imagine that like any great, script or performance, it probably crosses all barriers.
Yes, it does. It's we spoke about this before. It's like My Fat Greek Wedding.
Yeah,
It didn't
exactly.
matter. You don't have to be Greek. You're like, yeah, that's just like my uncle. That's my my lord.
Yeah, of course.
You still have that connection because the bottom it's about family.
Yeah.
And this really is also about a woman and her family and what she has to do, and how many women out there still keep pushing through. They're superheroes every day.
Yeah, but you also play over 20 characters, and not all of them identify as either Cuban American.
No.
There's several other Latinos. So it dips into the pool of other Latina or Latinx experiences.
Yeah.
That were important for you to say, were important for us to bring to the audience, and I think that's important. And I would say that the play's a celebration. It's a really celebration through comedy, because I think that what most people in South Florida, when they identify Elena María García, they think, she's been called the Lucy of South Florida, having these things about her. But regardless of all of that, the one thing, and this is, and I freely admit it, and it's just, you and I come from a little bit of crayon brain, and so when crayon brain comes into the fold, it has this sort of sensibility that you explode the circumstances and find the absurdity, find that humor, and find the physicality, which is your strength, the character work, So, and we're excited that hopefully that you'll be able to come and
Of
see
course.
our
I can't wait.
you know.
I can't wait. And
to come back into the theater.
Yes.
First of all, we're enjoying a little brunch here. And some sparkling water, because Stuart's already had all of his coffee for the day, his coffee ration. But this is from Crema. Thank you, Crema, for the delicious.
Gracias.
What do we have here? We've got pastries and muffins,
Ay,
a croissant.
qué rico.
And if it's okay with y'all, we'll maybe take a little taste
Oh,
of
fantastic.
each,
I
okay?
love crema. They are lovely. I love them. Oh, she's getting, here you go.
Here we go. Here we go.
Here we go.
Dale, mira.
Okay, I'll take
No,
this
no,
one.
you
Yeah,
take that one.
yeah,
Take that one. No, no.
There you go.
Here we go. Here we go.
When you were writing this, or when you're writing together, because of your very strong improv background, is that where you start? Do you start from a place of character development first? Is that how you develop it?
Oh,
No.
no and yes.
Yeah,
So sometimes when we were doing the other project, I would talk like the character,
yeah.
and I do it, and he'd go, and Stuart go, wait.
Okay, let me take this. So I'm at the computer.
He's at the computer.
So
Yeah.
she's over here in my office in a chair. Yeah, but spew. Okay, hold it.
Hold it. I go,
Let me
"Hold-"
figure it out, and so I will mold it.
Cool.
So particularly with the characters that she knows incredibly well. Like for example, and a lot of
Mommy.
these women, like her mother plays.
Which is my mother.
right.
Has your mother seen this?
Oh yeah.
Does she
Yeah.
love it?
This whole thing is almost biographical in the sense of the names and
Autobiographical, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
and all this and my mother and what's during the show when she was watching it, she would turn to the audience and go, "That's not true." And she goes, and then Lacey goes and goes, see, no, that's how you make flan. That's my flan. And then when I'm like, oh, mother.
I love
Yeah,
it.
but
Yes.
the date of their wedding anniversaries in there, the name of the family, Candelaria, all of that stuff. And so we kind of put it in there. But what my mother does is what all Cuban mothers do, and that's why I think the audience goes, oh, that's my mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, So anyway, yes, my mother would be one of the ones that I would filter through.
So that we really know. And there's other characters that we sort of created from the ether and just said, oh, okay, well, this is a story that we hear all the time. This is a story of that, or there's a lot of people from my family coincidentally in here.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
So you get these sort of, these clash of cultures that Miami sort of exhibits. you know?
So
Oh, thank you.
this is what I'm doing.
I'm
I'm serving.
okay, great. Here we go.
I'm serving you now. So, Stuart, you grew up here.
I did.
In Kendall, I've now learned.
I did. I grew up in Miami.
Always in theater?
I was...
Before the spotlight?
I originally went into... I was originally a classical voice major. And I wound up going from classical voice into acting and then getting my master's in directing.
Okay.
And
were you always directing? Like, even when you were acting, were you directing also?
no, I think when I was acting, I was emoting. And so it just got me slowly into directing. So,
why are you laughing at that for people
It's
who...
just funny. I just think it's funny. Because he's such an amazing director. And he allows the actor to do their craft. And there's such a fine line to feel safe in the creative aspect, that I could throw something out and it doesn't get poo-pooed. He goes, oh, okay, and then just the way that's why I think that's why we work so well. But we have such a funny way of working in that he'll go.
But I think that what makes a really good director, as opposed to just having a story that they want to tell, but that they can understand that what is in the room or in the creative space that they're working in, that there are people that come from very different sort of techniques and approaches and ideas. And so our jobs are to over here, and then let's sort of figure out the madness, sort of that chaos, and how everybody brings that into it. And I even bring my own, chaos into that, and how we could just find a place of common ground and getting to that point. And I think that's always been really interesting, and I love that aspect of it. You know, I mean, you and I can talk about the art of directing and the passions that come into that, all day long probably. But that's one component. And I think, with Elena, with you, it's always, try something. Okay, my language with her is going to be a little different.
Yeah.
I love it.
And also that having a sense of humor is important. Being able to laugh at ourselves is important, I think. I think it's also important in the room. I'm not a big director for conflict. And that's sometimes embedded into the creative space because people are shifting sort of insides and outsides. I don't like conflict. What I love is humor. I like laughing. So I like to laugh and then let's get to what we have to get to, I
always admire that I admire it in others, because while I definitely have a sense of humor and I just admire it so much in others, and I love it more than anything when I'm in a room with people who can lighten the room and who just always who have the wit, I don't know that is in itself, I think I'm probably like wry, but I just admire that a lot in others.
And it happens, I don't know why, I was always the fat kid growing up, so when you're the fat kid growing up, or you're the gay kid, or you're the token Jewish kid, in a neighborhood, you're always, those are things you have to fall into.
Well, you're a trifecta.
Exactly. Hey, listen, don't drag me through Alabama. All right, so, but the idea is that, you always fall into that thing. And this is also something, we both got trained in our humor by I Love Lucy. So I Love Lucy taught us, and you can sit there and watch an episode of I Love Lucy and the technical approach of this. And I used to, when I used to teach, we would talk about that. It was here, 3, 4, 5, not pleasurable, and really complicated, and going over it and over it. And that's also a learning component.
Yes, and I think when I think about myself as a director, I'm so into precision, and I was saying to someone the other day that I spent some time really focused on puppetry and cartoons.
Playwrights, actors, artists, I think that we can't forget to find the laughter even in the drama. Find that moment.
That's where the humanity is.
That's where the humanity is. That's where that, and I think that it's interesting because unfortunately, I believe we're in a place right now where laughing is not part of our
I know.
vernacular right now.
It's true.
And I don't want to go in. I hope we don't go into that realm.
Yeah.
Because we're going to lose sight of it. We're going to lose sight of that human scope.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, one of the reasons why Dave, and I don't know if he's here, but I can only thank him enough, like only 10 million times, for giving us the opportunity for this, bringing a kind of show to laugh at. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I spit on you.
You sure did.
That's okay.
Must happen all the time. I mean, come on.
But we're gonna eat something too. To bring that, I'm gonna have this blue. Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold
we
on,
have.
here
To,
we
we
go.
can't have brunch without eating. We have to eat.
Don't have to twist my arm.
This
I know.
crema
Yeah.
blueberry muffin
Okay, you're starting with the blueberry muffin.
is fantastic.
I'll be the judge of that, Stuart.
Is fantastic. And this is, oh my God, this is dulce de leche?
Dulce.
Dulce, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say dulce. Dulce de
How
leche.
long have you been in Miami?
I had blueberry muffin in my mouth.
I'm going to just jump into this one too, whatever this is. As someone totally new to the community, but also to the theater community, help me. What do you want me to know? So Stuart and I have met once before.
Yeah.
You were kind enough to, with Michael, show me
I mean,
around.
around the Art Center.
Yes.
Yeah. You had a big day that day because you were going to New World
Going to
Sim.
New World Symphony,
Yeah.
which actually was that day when I mentioned to someone, oh, we should record these because between meeting you and Michael that day and then meeting Howard from New World Symphony that day, I ended up having this like very, full day of art conversations and what is the role of an arts organization within a community. And it was a really heavy but enlivening, day.
You left sort of an impression in my head that day that when you spoke about community, and even though the idea that theater is a community theater, even though we're
That
not talking
every-
about professionalism and community,
Right, that every professional theater is a community theater.
Right.
Just by notion of what it is.
Yeah.
and that was something that I had forgotten, for a while, even though, and it's something that I'm readdressing as we move forward into this year and how we move forward with the Zoetic Stage. It's this idea, oh gosh, yes, our community. Who is our community? And who does our community work for, and who's it missing?
Yeah.
So these kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
But, going back to this larger, idea, with this sort of, your theater, Zoetic Stage, Actress Playhouse, and Area Stage, and Miami New Drama, and M Ensemble. These, and also, all the other incredible companies, ARCA that are part of this community. Specifically
For
for Miami, but yes, Thinking
City
Cap,
Theater,
yeah, and City Theater. Thank you. That I think that we're all connected. I think
Yeah.
we share a lot of the same audience that is already established, some of it, particularly perhaps maybe your theater actors and us, maybe, Geographically. But I think we tell similar stories but different, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
I think that the health of one theater
It is, yes.
reflects all of us.
Agree.
And Miami is a very different community than Broward, than Palm Beach. So that's what constitutes the South Florida community. The money, this is not a retirement community per se
Right,
anymore.
exactly.
It's a living,
Yeah.
working class, how people want to spend their money.
Yeah.
So everybody is so afraid, oh, you're going to take away our money. You're going to take away this. And I think that there's a little bit more of a shared bread and butter that we can all work together
Yeah,
with,
but I also think that is, while it might be specific to Miami, I think that whole mindset is extremely common and has been extremely common, just dealing with at least the United States, in the country in general.
You certainly know more
You know
about
what I
that,
mean?
yeah.
So and I was saying to someone the other day that no matter what city I'm in, whether it's be like a small rural city or a large metropolis, it really is the same issues of scarcity, of self-esteem. Oh, we can't have it because here we don't have it. rather than, no, we deserve to have it. We're going to work together to have it, you know? So, but I see it, it's just innately been, and I think that as time goes by, as this past year has like kind of emboldened us, I hope, as theater professionals, as artists in general, to demand and say and speak what we need in order to serve our communities. I'm hoping that those kinds of walls that we put up for ourselves can be broken down, and we need to reach out to each other and go forth. I think.
Join forces.
Join forces
Yeah.
in a respectful way that we all can
Yeah.
go ahead and pull each other up.
Yeah.
I think that's exciting. That's why we're celebrating this new dawn of Gable Stage. We're celebrating with you and your team. And I can speak that, you know, from Zoetic Stage, but we're also celebrating, I think above everything else, that stories are still going to be told.
Yeah.
That theater's still going to be happening.
Yes. Epiphany that I had a year ago when I was like trying to like figure out how to get through the year, and was we all have our creative spirit. That's something that every human has, and whether that's God or the creative spirit or whatever you want to call it. And my God, I wasn't going to let some virus or government or union or whatever take away the creative spirit. And I was saying to you earlier that I was in Maine, remarkably, I was surrounded by these excellent improvisers for years, and it really opened my eyes. And I think it opened community members' eyes too, people who didn't consider themselves performers, into the power of expression and of saying yes and to life in general, you know? So I know you're a professor, an associate professor?
Yes,
a professor?
an assistant professor at Bari.
But is improv one of your ways in with these
Yes.
students?
Yes.
How do
Yes.
you start? What is the foundation that you lay to even build upon? Are you teaching acting?
I teach acting and improv. Those are my babies.
I see.
Yeah, and improv was an elective before, and now since I've been there, improv is part of the core. And it's also
Wow.
in the general ed, so anybody could take improv, and it counts as an arts. So I made it, you know, and a lot of these, those people that are not theater majors or minors, they could still take that, and it's one of these classes that's like, oh gosh, I can work that other side of my brain. But I find it that improv is, for me, is the foundation, because if you of understanding that my job is to make you look amazing.
Right.
Your job is to make me look amazing.
Right.
We have to really listen to each other,
Right.
not only this way, but this way.
Right.
And I give to
Right.
you, you give to me. Great. Hey, here's a script. Oh, I'm gonna make you look
Right.
amazing.
Right,
And
right,
it
right.
just, it's something that I keep pounding on them, and it's not about performance. It's
Right.
not about performance. It's about being there, being present, being real,
Right.
and being there for your other fellow actor.
Right.
And that, you've done the work.
That's one of the things that I think people who aren't familiar with acting technique are kind of blown away by, that it's actually not at all about you. It's always about the other. I taught 13 classes of football players at the University of Iowa acting. And I remember saying to them,
Oh my Lord.
it is a technique. Like, I always like kind of cringe a little when people talk to me about talent, because to me, like, it all is a technique.
It's all a technique.
And
It all
it's
is.
possible to learn. Talent is a God-given gift that, you know, gives you charisma and,
Yeah.
you know, certain other tools, colors to play with. But the craft of acting is a craft that can be taught and can be learned. And so I found, just like in watching, in being surrounded by these improvisers, teaching community members, we had this whole corporate training, communications training thing with, like, we did like Kimberly Clark, we did Acadia National Park, like we did all kinds of like banks and law firms, and but giving those people the skills to, most importantly, trust their instinct, to, like what you just said, of not, oh God, but to go with it. And the other thing is, like, I wonder, do you ever act anymore, Stuart, or perform?
No, I had done. I did one of my husband's plays a few years back at New Theater when it was still around, and I put my energy into writing now.
I'm so grateful that the two of you have made time, number one, in the middle of your rehearsal. I'm really thrilled to meet you. I've just read about you before I came in, but before that, I had heard so many amazing things. Stuart is not the first one who's described you as Lucy.
Thank you. Thank you.
So my very best friend who brought me to Miami for the first time, her name is Sari Wagner Lennick, is her married name. And she's a film actress, grew up in Kendall, but she is like my favorite comedian and really, really, really brought I Love Lucy into my life in a big way.
Yeah.
So coming to Miami and hearing someone else
thank you.
share that love is...
Thank you.
Yeah, no, and that's pretty good. I think it's just that idea of joyfulness. Now the difference is, Elena brings that into her off life too, whereas
really?
Lucy couldn't.
Right.
Lucille Ball didn't have that ability
I
because
bring that into my class.
Right. You bring it
My
into your
teaching.
classroom. You bring it into so much that you do.
Yeah.
So
Joy.
Mag,
Because life is too short.
it's either, right, exactly. Life
You
is
have
either
to.
very short or very long, depending on what you make it.
And I always look at it as an improvist. I always look at everything. Everyone's like, I can't believe I'm waiting in this line. I'm like, yeah, but
Yeah.
this could be a sketch.
Right.
You know, your perception of situations, people, life is a little,
Skewed.
Yeah.
and makes it a lot easier to handle a lot of stuff.
And that's what we do, right? That's we first of all, theater deals in metaphor, number one. So being able to identify what that is. And number two, losing one's imagination is a terrible thing.
Horrible.
And so by exercising in that way, not only does it validate your own imagination, but those 9/11 papers started with "we never could have imagined." So it's our responsibility, right?
That was the whole premise of Tom Friedman's every article that came out that he put into the New York Times was that Americans didn't have the ability to imagine
I can't stand
that
it.
something like this was going to happen. So they put all of that into a book, his writings into a book, and that's the reaction of that, was that we just didn't have it in our ability to imagine that.
And I would say that is the role of a theater company in a town, to be a center for imagination.
Credit.
I can't take credit for that. That actually is something that Pearl Clegg taught me when I was at the Alliance Theater. And it's very wise. And being in a small town like Bangor, I would say, what makes a community a community? You have to have a center for learning, you have to have a center for law, a center for education. Like, pretty high up there is a center for imagination. So we're taping this during valuable rehearsal time, so thank you. And thank you, Actors Playhouse.
And Actors Equity.
And Actors Equity. But the show will open next week, and it runs through September 12th with a possible extension
Till the 19th.
Till the 19th.
through September 19th. Well, I can't wait to come.
Well, we can't wait to see you
Yes,
here
I'll be here.
and be prepared to laugh your tojas off. But I try to do it in a little bit of a multicultural.
Not even close.
I'm going to say it wrong.
Fuácata.
Fuácata.
No.
Fuácata.
Yeah, that's close.
Fuácata. That's not right.
Fuácata.
Fuácata.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it a word that's used in all Spanish, or is it specifically a
Hold on,
Cuban term?
it's Cuban, Puerto Rican.
Venezuelan?
Cachetazo is
Yeah.
another one, but fuácata. If you
The
say
cachetazo,
fuácata,
cachetazo's for Mexican.
yes,
Mexicans.
but still, if you were to say you would say fuácata.
Even if you do the
Fuácata.
hand gesture.
I see.
It's
That
a-
helps. Fuácata.
It's like preparada.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to end well. It just doesn't.
Thank you to Stuart Meltzer, Elena María García, and Crema, and the Actors Playhouse for hosting this brunch with Barry. We'll see you at Fuácata.
And
A Latina's Guide to Surviving the Universe.